I've been using Codex, Cursor, Claude Code, all the AI tools for a while now, but I was constantly running into the same problem. I was updating my agents file to include the best practices and skills that I wanted to use for my projects. But I had to do that for every single project that I was working on. And the issue wasn't speed, it was basically just consistency and making sure the outcome was consistent across all the projects. And it constantly felt like this isn't the best solution. That was until I found out Agent Skills, an open format that is now available. So in this video, I'll show you what Agent Skills are, how you can install them, keep them up to date, how you can add them to an individual project, but also I'll show you an actual refactor of a vibe-coded app using a Swift Concurrency skill. And yes, that vibe-coded app can definitely use some improvements. So let's dive in. So what are agent skills? Well, you can go to agentskills.io. I have the website open right here. And here it explains what skills are. And they're basically a lightweight open format for extending AI agent capabilities with specialized knowledge and workflows. To me, they're a little different than agents files. I'm now constantly using my agents files for project specific knowledge. The skills are really like reusable skills that I will use across all those projects. And I used to add that to my agents files, right? Like Swift UI best practices or Swift concurrency best practices, basically those skills that you will use in each project. Now you can basically install a skill for each individual skill. Kind of repetitive, but it makes sense. And your AI tool will automatically discover the skill. You can see this section how skills work. It starts with the discovery. So at startup, the agent loads the name and the description of each available skill. It will basically find which skill works best. So if I ask my AI tool, so I want to improve the Swift concurrency usage of my app, it will search for a Swift concurrency skill. But if I say I want to refactor my Swift UI usage, it will search for a Swift UI best practices skill, just as an example. So when a task matches a skill description, it will read the whole skill instructions. And this is also where it's important that you have a skill that is of high quality, right? So this skill is defined with a skill.markdown file. So it's basically an introduction file. And it's kind of like summarizing what the skill can do. And eventually it will lead to references. So the skill file could, for example, say like, hey, if you want to write a Swift concurrency, you need to use async await. If you want to know more about this, there's a reference file called async await. So the AI tool will dive deeper into that. And this way, a skill can be quite big, like covering a lot of things, but it will all have an introduction file, which is the skill file, which will lead to more in-depth pages, so to say. And eventually your tool will go into execution mode, where it will use the skill to apply the knowledge it gained from the skill, so to say. And I love using agent skills to plan ahead a refactor. I use the latest ChatGPT model, for example, and with that model, I plan ahead the refactor, which will eventually be executed by maybe a cheaper model, so to say. But I at least know like the things that will be executed are the best thing it can do. And on the Agent Skills website homepage, you can see what agents can enable. So new capabilities, domain expertise, repeatable workflows. There are actually quite some examples that you can browse when you click on the example skills on the bottom of the website. Here you'll have a folder with a lot of skills that are currently curated and already accepted. There are a lot of pull requests. So I expect a lot of more skills to be added soon. And agent skills are widely adopted. You can see the scrolling list here, but there are also dedicated pages. This is from OpenAI about agent skills. This is from Cursor from agent skills. So each tool that you will likely use is great in adopting agent skills. Be aware for Cursor right now at the moment of creating this video, you need like a beta, but I've used the skills successfully with Cursor already, and I'll show you that later in this video. Now, at first, it looks like agent skills have the same problem as an agents file. You find some improvements that you want to apply, you change your agents file, and you need to keep that up to date. With skills, you find a repository, and the repository contains a certain skill that you want to use. Some repositories even offer like multiple skills that you can use, right? So it contains multiple skill directories. Luckily enough, there is a CLI called Open Skills, which you can use to install the skill on your machine and eventually add it to your projects as well. And I will demonstrate that in a bit. So for this video, I want to use a Swift concurrency skill that I created myself. It's based on my Swift concurrency course, which contains like 70 plus lessons. And what I basically did, I digested all those lessons into a dedicated skill. I honestly needed this myself. If we look at the repository, I'll show a link in the description. We can navigate through the skill. So here you can see a Swift concurrency folder. And if we click on it, it opens up and it has the skill markdown file that we discussed before. We can open that and we can show you that. Yes, there's an error, but I believe there's already pull request open, so we will solve that later. But you can see that the skill has a certain strict format, and this format is required. This is like the open format. You can actually use AI to create those skills if you will. They're great at doing this correctly. It has a little overview, but it also has an agent behavior. So what I wanted to do with the skill is to really give them like a step-by-step instruction on how to use the skill. For Swift concurrency, it's super important that it knows like, hey, what are the project settings? Is Swift 6 enabled or are we using Swift 5? What is the default actor isolation? What are the upcoming features that are enabled? Because all those settings kind of influence how the logic should work. Then if we scroll a little bit down, there's a quick decision tree. So starting fresh with async code, read references, async await basics, protecting shared mutable state, go to the actors markdown file or go to the sendable markdown file. And this is exactly what I told you before, right? We have the skills markdown file, which is kind of the entry point, which will lead to different directions. And it might be that your AI tool doesn't use everything from this skill, but the skill is really like a knowledgeable expert on that specific domain knowledge, and it will give entry points to more in-depth pages. So we can go into that Swift concurrency folder again, open the references folder, and this is where you can see all those markdown files, right? So for example, we can open the actors markdown file, and this is really a dedicated page. It can't be more than 500 lines at this point, but it contains everything about actors. So this is really like an expert, knowledgeable page, yeah, for the AI tool to use. In this case, it's updated for Swift 6.2, and this skill is fully based on my Swift concurrency course. It contains 70 plus lessons. It's used by developers at leading tech companies, and it basically contained all the knowledge that I needed for this skill. And honestly, this is how I want to apply Swift concurrency, so it makes total sense to create the skill from it. And what I basically did, I digested all those lessons into individual markdown files, and you can also see that all the reference files that are here line up with the modules in the course. It builds up and it makes sure that we cover all the skills required for Swift concurrency. And this also brings me to an important point. I see those repositories with a lot of different skills, and that's not necessarily bad, but I honestly really believe in skills created by those individual experts. I feel like I'm an expert on Swift concurrency, so it makes sense that I create this skill for Swift concurrency. I'm not going to create a skill on accessibility. I'm just not knowledgeable enough on that area. So hopefully we will get skills that are created by those that know best how to do it. And I would highly recommend to use skills where you know, like, okay, this is created by somebody that knows what he's doing, and this is really going to help my project forward. At the same time, there's also opinionated skills, right? It could be like an architectural refactor, which forces you to use MVVM, but maybe you're not really like in favor of using MVVM because you use the composable architecture or anything like that, right? So it's super important that when you decide to use a skill, that it fits your coding style, that it's actually something that you want to apply to your project. So let's look at an actual example. And in this case, I want to introduce you to a vibe coded app. Well, it's a bit more serious than that, but building this app for this YouTube series from app ID to 10K MRR that you can watch here, if you will. There are a few episodes available already. And this is how the app looks right now. So if I open it up, it basically shows a login screen. I can sign in with YouTube. And after sign in, it will load your videos. And the app is basically just allowing YouTube creators to optimize their videos, to find out like what is going well, what is something that they can improve. Doesn't really matter for this case. I just want to show you that I have an app that is vibe coded and that can definitely use some improvements. So the next thing we're about to do is to install the skill into our project. The README of my skill contains some how to use instructions. The first thing you need to do is to install Open Skills, which I already did. Then you need to change the directory into your project. This is for installing the skill for your project specifically. You can also install them on your system wide, but for this example, I will just install it into the project individually itself. Then you need to use this command to install the skill accordingly. So let's copy that line, go into the terminal, paste the line and install it. So as you can see, it installed the skill, but it's not actually installed into the agents file yet. As you can see, it says sync to the agents.markdown file using openskills.sync. So we can copy that command and execute that accordingly. It now asks you to select the skill that you want to sync. In this case, we only have one skill available, which is the Swift Concurrency skill. So we can press enter and it will add it to the agents files, as you can see right here. Now, I think it's important for you to know what it actually did. So let's look at the changes for our markdown file. And as you can see, it added a new section into the agents.markdown file. And this allows the AI tool to discover your skill accordingly. So it lists the available skills. It gives instructions when users ask to perform a task, check if any of the available skills below can help complete the task more effectively. It also says how to use the skills. In this case, it uses Open Skills to read the skill accordingly. And there are some usage notes. It also lists the available skills, and with that it completed the whole sync with the agents file. And this is enough for us to get started to actually start prompting and see if we can do some refactors that make sense. So I paste the command, and I like to use a plan mode, which you can basically also do with Shift Tab. A great shortcut. And in this case, I'll use the GPT 5.2 model, which is the latest model at this point. My idea is that I want to use the best model for planning mode, and for execution, I'll probably use a model that is less expensive. So let's go ahead and let it use our skill. As you can see, it's auto-run the command Open Skills read Swift Concurrency. And in this case, it's now also evaluating the whole skill accordingly. It did that quite fast. You can see that it does a few more things. It grabbed the default actor isolation, which is exactly what we instructed in the skill. So it's now basically aware of the project's build settings regarding Swift Concurrency. And it also gives some first hints here, right? There are a few explicit main actor.run blocks and several non-isolated unchecked sendable usages that are worth validating. Here it's saying the Xcode project default actor isolation is set to main actor. That's a big lever. It means a lot of normal looking code is actually main actor isolated. These are the insights we actually need, right? These make total sense for Swift Concurrency refactors. Maybe we don't need main actor everywhere, but also maybe some of our code is actually running on the main actor while we believed it was running on a background thread. Now this prompt is actually quite wide, right? It basically asks for refactoring anything in the project. So it will come up with a lot of changes. It's now also scanning for legacy concurrency patterns using GCD. You don't want to use dispatch queue anymore if you use Swift Concurrency, or at least it shouldn't mangle, so to say. It has some good news to share. The code already leans into structured concurrency. I mean, I started this project recently, right? And I know how to use Swift Concurrency, so it kind of makes sense. And now it starts to ask a few questions. So what do you want out of this concurrency pass? Report only, targeted code fixes, full Swift 6 pass. This totally depends on what you want, right? So I just want to report for this case. And now it also asks which area it should prioritize. We can go a few directions: UI responsiveness, correctness, cancellation, and tasks. I think for these kind of refactors, it makes sense to really focus on a small thing. And this is an entry point, right? Like we do a big planning mode here, but it also allows us to narrow down right now. And eventually, based on the plan that comes out of it, you can decide to go for a certain focused direction. That keeps the changes small, allows you to create a PR that is more focused, allows you to be better aware of all the changes that it applies. So for now, I would love to see how it will do on UI responsiveness. It will continue to craft the whole plan based on those decisions, and eventually we will get a to-do list and a whole planning document. And the created plan uses insights from the skill, right? So here, for example, it tells us that the default actor isolation is actually main actor. The app target language mode is Swift 5.0. Several packages are using explicit Swift 6.2. And these are great insights if you focus on Swift Concurrency refactors, right? And then it basically goes about the changes that you should probably apply. So high priority UI, responsiveness hotspots. These are basically files from the project. Remove or replace dispatch queue.main.async after, which for Swift Concurrency makes total sense. But also some medium priority cleanups and so on. And I won't go into all those code details, right? Like every project is different, but it at least shows what the skill can already do today. And for my project, I will probably go into those changes one by one because I want to know for sure that it doesn't make things worse, or that it's still AI. We still need to validate the outcome, right? Even though agent skills are amazing. I just think it's important for you to embrace agent skills, to really dive into what they are, which skills are available. Go check out my GitHub repository for the Swift Concurrency Agent Skill. Also, make sure to check out my concurrency course if you want to go more in depth on Swift Concurrency. And if you want to learn more about how I use AI development tools, my workflow, how I increase my productivity, make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. And with that, I want to thank you for watching and let me know in the comments below which skills are your favorites today. Thanks.